Have you ever observed a certain Pokemon and have pondered what it even was? Or what it might be based on? Well, we've all been in these situations before, so I've decided to dedicate minutes upon minutes of study to some of these Pokemon and their real-life counterparts, especially the ones which are heavily influenced by folklore and culture. Welcome to PokeLink. Salutations, everyone. So, this is officially the 5th episode of this series, and I'm pretty glad we've gotten this far. I'm quite satisfied with all the Pokemon we have encountered at this point, and I can't wait to cover more in the future. And another thing I should mention is that we've only covered 3rd and 4th generation Pokemon, and I would like to break that trend. So today, I might do something different.
Oh, let me guess, another Bell Pokemon? Something else from Japanese culture? I mean, geez, for a show about Pokemon culture, you really aren't getting a lot of cultures, are you?
I guess? Wait, who are you? And how did you get into my video?
Oh, hey Swords. Sorry, didn't mean to disturb you. I mean, I guess maybe you should have known I'd be here from the video title, thumbnail, script we wrote together, and Skype messages where you asked me if I wanted to collab. By the way, I'm here to help you with this week's PokeLink, if you don't remember.
Oh, that's right. My memory is so horrid. So, I assume you want to dedicate today's video towards Lapras. If that's the case, I guess I have the best person to start it off. So, let's get this started then.
Lapras was introduced in the first generation games of Pokemon Red and Green. Known as the Transport Pokemon, Lapras' typing is that of water and ice. It resembles the extinct reptiles known as Plesiosauria, which were reptiles that had a broad, flat belly, a short tail, and 4 long flippers as fins. In addition, they typically had long necks, like today's Lapras. Lapras is typically blue in color with a white underside. It's moderately large in size, with a height of 2.5 meters. It has 2 large black eyes and a small horn on its forehead. Lastly, on its back sits a large gray shell covered in blunt knobs, which kinda resembles a saddle. With that being Lapras' appearance, I'd also like to point out that Lapras is native to the seas, and generally travels in large pods with its own kind. It's also good to point out that the population of Lapras has declined drastically over the years due to overhunting from humans. Swords will definitely be covering the Pokedex entries, which mention this. Take it away, Swords.
Thanks, man. That was pretty good. Now, let's get right into a few Pokedex entries for this quote-unquote transport Pokemon. As for Red and Blue, it states, a Pokemon that has been overhunted almost to extinction. It can ferry people across the water. As for Pokemon Yellow, it states, a gentle soul that can read the minds of people. It can ferry people across the sea on its back. For Hard Gold, it states, they have gentle hearts. Because they rarely fight, many have been caught. Their numbers have dwindled. And lastly, for Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire's Pokedex, it states, people have driven Lapras almost to the point of extinction. In the evenings, this Pokemon is said to sing plaintively as it seeks what few others of its kind still remain. Those were a few important Pokedex entries for Lapras, which gives us important information to what this Pokemon is most likely influenced by in the real world. And with that being said, let's transition to Lapras' Japanese name and see what we can figure out from it. So, Lapras' Japanese name is Lapras? So, it's just the same exact thing as its English counterpart. Huh, isn't that great?
Well, Swords, you know that Lapras is a corruption of Laplace.
Oh, I see. So, it could be referring to the famed French mathematician Pierre-Simon Laplace.
Yeah. Or it could just be derived from the French word for seat.
Oh, well, that's exciting. But hey, both make sense, I suppose.
To be fair, it could also be referring to lapis lazuli, the deep blue gem. But I find the first two close enough.
True. Well, with that out of the way, let's delve into the likely origins for this Pokemon.
Before we get this started, I would like to say that Lapras is possibly influenced by various creatures and animals, whether physically or by its actions. We'll summarize all the influences this Pokemon has, and try to explain them in as much detail as we possibly can. First off, Lapras is based on the fabled Loch Ness Monster from Scotland. This is confirmed from the Red and Green beta, which has Lapras named as Ness, an obvious reference to Nessie. Some of the supposed physical descriptions of Nessie are even said to resemble that of the Plesiosauria. However, when delving into the various myths and conspiracies of the Loch Ness Monster, you find that it's heavily influenced by an older legend of the same region, that of the Kelpie, which doesn't resemble the kindness and intelligence of Lapras. It's really the contrary, with the Loch Ness Monster and Kelpie being quite hostile in a few stories. For instance, in the folklore, Kelpies are said to inhabit the lochs and lakes of Scotland. They're said to shapeshift, typically between the forms of a water horse and a human male. In folklore, they're usually described as powerful water horses, black in color, which prey on any human they happen to encounter. I'd like to add that they can sometimes be seen seeking the companionship of people, but usually it's the opposite end of the spectrum, where they're known to take their victims deep into their domain and devour them whole, resulting in them to throw their entrails over the water's edge, which sounds like a fun time to me.
So, in all honesty, Lapras just physically resembles the fabled Loch Ness in the extinct Plesiosauria. Now, Plesiosauria didn't have large shells, but Lapras' shell could be inspired from another extinct marine reptile, known as Placodonts. So now that we have the physical description completely down, let's move on to the actions of Lapras. Lapras is known as a kind and intelligent being, but what creature in the real world resembles this? Well, Lapras is most likely influenced by cetaceans. Due to its intelligence, singing, and rarity, we can make a solid connection to creatures like blue whales, humpback whales, and possibly even dolphins to an extent. Cetaceans are known as social animals with highly developed social behaviors. They are also known to travel in pods, just like Lapras. Another thing to point out is that these type of cetaceans communicate through certain tones and melodies, known as well songs. And communication aside, the emitting of these clicks and buzzes can also be used to obtain sonic information about their surrounding environment, this known as echolocation. However, in various Pokédex entries, and even in the Pokémon anime, Lapras is known to communicate with humans. I think the reason this is the case is just to reflect how intelligent and complex these sea creatures are, but with that being said, we can see the similarities between cetaceans in Lapras. Now, I would like to say I'm not an expert on cetacean species at all, so I can't really explain this in any more detail, but I hope the summary was enough to link Lapras to them.
I think that was enough to sell our point. Lapras truly is a unique and warm-hearted Pokemon. Moreover, it's quite tragic that they're dwindling in size due to the past hunting of their kind in the Pokemon world. This can definitely be said about certain cetacean species in the real world as well. Thanks for having me on the show, Swords. I'm glad we were able to tackle my personal favorite Pokemon. And if anyone is interested in what I do, be sure to check out my channel by clicking the annotation on the screen or in the description below. I do a lot of Let's Plays, Pokemon Leagues, and Flash games especially. And thanks again to Swords for having me on, it was a ton of fun.
No problem, Alex. I'm glad you can join me today. Well, if anyone enjoyed today's video, you can support by giving this a thumbs up, or even a thumbs down, and please comment down below. I'd also like to add that I've been reading everyone's comments so far, and will be planning to do some of your suggestions in upcoming episodes, so be sure to look out for that. I also plan to have more collaborations coming up soon, so be sure to stay tuned by subscribing to the channel. With that being said, I'll catch you on the flip side.